the account of Kenneth Bianchi, the Slope Strangler who threatened Los Angeles in the last part of the 1970s. In some cases joined by his cousin Angelo Buono, Kenneth Bianchi assaulted, tormented, and killed 12 ladies and young ladies throughout 18 months starting in 1977. From 1977 to 1978, the Los Angeles region was a jungle gym for two insane people dead set on mistreating young ladies. The media alluded to these men, Kenneth Bianchi and his cousin, Angelo Buono, as the Slope Stranglers regarding their business as usual, abducting, tormenting, physically attacking, lastly choking their casualties. Their rule of dread reached a conclusion when Kenneth Bianchi later endeavored to satisfy his dim longings without Buono close by in Washington state, abandoning hints that would ensnare him and his cousin in their fierce killing binge back in California. Yet, before he was gotten, Kenneth Bianchi had the option to execute probably the most merciless killings in current history. This is the narrative of Slope Strangler Kenneth Bianchi and how he became one of the most alarming chronic enemies of his period. Kenneth Bianchi's violent childhood in New York. Kenneth Bianchi was brought into the world on May 22, 1951, in Rochester, New York, to a 17-year-old sex laborer. 14 days after Bianchi's introduction to the world, his mom put him up for reception, referring to that she was a drunkard and couldn't really like him. In August of that very year, the Bianchi family, contained Nicholas Bianchi and his better half, Francis Cioliano Bianchi, took on the child. As he developed, Bianchi began showing exceptionally stressing signs. When Bianchi could talk, his mom noticed that he was an enthusiastic liar. Bianchi likewise battled with incessant bedwetting and strange episodes where he would gaze apparently into space and feign exacerbation back into his head. These episodes were disturbing to the point that Bianchi's mom counseled specialists on a few events, however was over and over told that the episodes were probably simply a stage he would outgrow. The primary indication of sexual deviancy came when Bianchi pulled a 6-year-old young lady's clothing down in July 1963, when he was 12. These episodes happened up until Bianchi was in secondary school. During school, he dated different young ladies and, surprisingly, joined social clubs. At the point when he was 18, Bianchi wedded his secondary school darling, a lady named Brenda Beck. In any case, for obscure reasons, Beck left him after just 8 months of marriage. By 1976, when Bianchi was 25 years of age with a line of fruitless positions and a bombed marriage, he chose to roll out certain improvements in his day-to-day existence and move in with his cousin in Los Angeles. In the city of holy messengers, Buono would open Bianchi to an existence of unreasonable sex and viciousness. Moving to Los Angeles, meeting Angelo Buono, and starting an existence of savage wrongdoing. Kenneth Bianchi showed up in Los Angeles in January 1976. For the initial not many months in the city, Bianchi lived with Angelo Buono, his took-on cousin, and became captivated with his garish way of life. Bianchi in the end found a new line of work with the California Land Title Organization, however much of the time rationalized to miss work, including let his managers know that he had disease. By 1977, his organization had terminated him in the wake of tracking down pot in his office work area. Once more, Bianchi was without work and frantically hoping to keep himself above water. He applied a few times to work for both the Glendale Police Division and the Los Angeles Police Office, yet was dismissed without fail. Buono, a self-depicted women's man, moved toward Bianchi with a business suggestion in September 1977, becoming pimps. As a component of his business thought, Buono wanted to kidnap 2 out-of-control young ladies and power them to accomplish sex work. Buono in the long run found what he was searching for in teens Sabra Hannon and Becky Lances. Be that as it may, the young ladies figured out how to get away from Buono and Bianchi a couple of months into their bondage, leaving the 2 men frantic for cash. The 2 then, at that point, acquainted themselves with neighborhood sex laborers in order to get more data about the sorts of individuals regularly visiting their business. In their hunt, they met 2 ladies named Deborah Honorable and Yolanda Washington, who sold them a phony rundown of known clients nearby. At the point when Bianchi and Buono understood that the rundown was phony and that they had been tricked, they became maddened and set off out of control against ladies. Kenneth Bianchi's most memorable casualty was Yolanda Washington. In view of the data Washington gave when the 2 met, Bianchi knew precisely where she worked. Close by his cousin Buono, Bianchi grabbed Washington, assaulted her, then choked her to death with a piece of texture in the secondary lounge of his vehicle. An observer to Washington's seizing expressed that he saw 2 men streak police identifications at her prior to binding her and setting her toward the rear of a vehicle. Her body was found a day after the fact. The 2 struck again a couple of days after the fact, capturing and killing a 15-year-old sex laborer named Judith Mill Operator. A couple of days later, the team hijacked and killed a server named Alyssa Caston. This frenzy went on for the following couple of months, with a sum of 10 bodies appearing in the city of Los Angeles, severely beaten, choked, assaulted, and tormented. The city was panicked, and ladies in Los Angeles started to lay down with one eye open. At the same time I was apprehensive how I've been apprehensive since these stranglings began, a female entrepreneur in Los Angeles expressed to the Washington Post. I never used to be apprehensive. Out of nowhere, nearly when it began, the frenzy finished. By late February 1978, the homicides had halted, and the city inhaled a moan of help. People in general didn't know then that the 2 men capable had to a great extent cut off their relationship. Bianchi, whose ex had recently brought forth his child, moved to Washington to be nearer to them. Kenneth Bianchi's destruction in Washington. By 1978, Kenneth Bianchi had abandoned his life in Los Angeles to move to Bellingham, Washington, to be nearer to his ex and infant kid. And keeping in mind that Los Angeles gradually attempted to sort out a feeling of business as usual following the ruthless killings, Bellingham was not ready for the dread that was going to unfurl with Bianchi's appearance. In January 1979, Bellingham police got a report that 2 college understudies, Karen Mandick and Diane Moore Stunning, were missing. Police revealed that Bianchi, who had filled in as a safety officer, possible, tricked the two young ladies to a home he was watching with the commitment of paying them $100 to house sit. While there, he choked the two ladies and later discarded their bodies in an unwanted vehicle in the forest. The fact that Bianchi was their man makes given onlooker declaration, crime scene investigation, and the timetable, Bellingham police sure. An adjudicator gave a court order for his condo, and police found a California driver's permit, gems having a place with the casualties in Los Angeles, and different things of interest. Out of nowhere, the Bellingham police understood that they had something a lot more prominent on their hands than a twofold homicide. They wound up gazing at one half of the Slope Stranglers. With the proof stacked against him, Bianchi admitted to police that he and Buono had been liable for the homicides in Los Angeles. On October 22, 1979, police captured Angelo Buono at his home. Notwithstanding, while Bianchi might have been available at the crime locations, he let specialists know that he battled with conflicting personality psychosis, recently known as numerous behavioral condition. That's what he asserted Steve Walker, his substitute character, had perpetrated the violations. At last, specialists didn't get it, and an appointed authority decided he and his cousin fit to stand preliminary life in jail for quite possibly of America's most exceedingly awful chronic executioner. Bianchi confessed to the 2 homicides in Washington and 5 killings in Los Angeles. He even affirmed against Buono to keep away from capital punishment. The court gave over 6 life sentences to Bianchi and 1 life sentence without the chance for further appeal to Buono in 1981. At long last, the Slope Stranglers confronted equity. Kenneth Bianchi's new home turned into the Washington State Prison in Walla. There, he documented a few petitions to pursue his convictions yet has been ineffective. In an odd occasion, a youthful dramatist named Veronica Compton, who was fixated on the chronic executioner, even endeavored to get Bianchi excused in 1980. Concocting an arrangement to kill another young lady and plant proof at the scene, Bianchi and Compton cooperated to cause it to seem like the genuine executioner was still running wild. This plan flopped terribly, and the courts later viewed Compton to be blameworthy of endeavored murder. She stayed in jail until her delivery in 2003. Starting today, Kenneth Bianchi stays in the Slammer in Washington. He is qualified for parole in 2025 and keeps on engaging for his delivery. Notwithstanding, examiners are certain that he won't ever be a liberated individual from now onward. His life halted in 1979, and he has nothing else to do except for pick at appeals. Fred Nolte, a previous Bellingham police criminal investigator who dealt with the case, expressed to the Bellingham envoy about Kenneth Bianchi.
Abba.